Welcome back to Odyssey, everyone. It's 5:30 in the morning and we are getting ready to start the day. In today's video, we are going to talk about posture. We will focus on why good posture is important, how having good posture can not only improve your regular health, but also drastically improve your golf game, and go through a morning routine you guys can do every day to improve your posture and have good body dynamics. If you guys are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe down below to stay up to date on all our latest videos and content. Now, for this video, I did not create a written guide to go along with it, but let me know in the comments down below if you find the video very useful and helpful and want me to make a written guide. I can certainly do that and then put those contents on the website. You guys will be surprised how many of my bad habits come from just having bad posture. By focusing on improving your posture, you can reduce pain and take pressure off of your joints and muscles, such as your neck, back, and shoulders. These aches and pains are especially exaggerated for avid golfers because of the amount of torque and strain we put on our bodies when we're swinging a golf club. Having better posture can also improve your breathing. I have a tendency to kind of get the crane neck from sitting at my office all day and then going and playing golf and being hunched over. Having this kind of head forward posture not only gives you a lot of neck pain and strain just throughout the day, but I also find that this causes a lot of trouble breathing at night when I'm trying to sleep. When I have this poor neck posture, I tend to be a heavy mouth breather, especially when I'm sleeping, and I'll typically wake up with like a really dry mouth. Having good posture can also help boost your energy levels, and working on it can be a great start to the day. When my body is constantly bothered by aches and pains, this can be very distracting and ruin my productivity, whether I'm at the office or I'm on the golf course. I find that working on posture in the morning gets my body feeling good and sets me up to be productive for the rest of the day. Good posture also helps keep our body in a stable position, which can prevent injuries from falls or just general wear and tear on the body throughout the day. I will cover this later in the video, but I am a huge advocate for proactive therapy. It's so much easier and cheaper to work on something proactively than to get an injury and have to pay for an expensive surgery or treatment. The last major benefit I see from having good posture is actually more mental than physical, and that is improved confidence. Like anything in golf, when I'm trying to improve something in my game, I will look at a professional that does it really well and try to emulate what they're doing. When I think about guys in golf who have really good posture, two names immediately come to mind, and that's Brooks Koepka and Dustin Johnson. These guys have such good posture that when they walk, they almost kind of have like a distinctive strut. They have such a confident aura when they're walking that it almost kind of intimidates the field. Posture is also one of the key setup components alongside grip and alignment, and is the key thing we're going to be focusing on improving today. By the end of today's video, you will have a morning routine that you can do every day to improve your general health and drastically improve your golf game without ever having touched a club. One quick disclaimer before I get into the instructional part of this video. I am not a medical professional. If you do have a serious injury or problem, I would highly recommend you go see a doctor or a physical therapist to make sure that the exercises you're going to do aren't going to make your injury worse. As far as my credentials go, I did competitive gymnastics for 18 years of my life, and during that time I sustained quite a few injuries. After I retired from gymnastics, I became very interested personally in exercise science and body dynamics. After I first started working a desk job, I started to notice a lot of aches and pains related to posture. So I decided to take a concerted effort to work on my posture so that I can improve my longevity and play sports at a high level for a long time. I've spent years fine-tuning my morning routine, and now I'd like to share my knowledge with you guys so that you can improve your day-to-day health and hopefully improve your golf games. Did you know that you can now schedule appointments and receive treatment from a physical therapist without a referral from a doctor? It's true. It's called direct access, and in most states it allows access to physical therapy services without a referral for any condition. This policy is great because it drastically reduces the amount of time you have to wait to get treatment, improves access to care, and in most cases is often cheaper. I like to be proactive about my therapy and recovery, and I personally use this policy for a treatment called dry needling, and it only costs me a $45 copay each time I go visit. So if you guys do need serious treatment beyond what I'm going to show you today, this is a very viable and cheap option. Alright, finally time for the morning routine. When it comes to working out, my main purpose is to get my body to be able to move the way that I want without injury. When working on posture exercises and trying to change the dynamic of how my body moves in every day, there's 3 things that I'm working on. First, I'm stretching to get my body to be able to move in that range of motion. Then I do exercise to stabilize my body in those positions. And finally, once I can get to the position and stabilize it, then I'll start to work on the heavy strength exercises. In total, this morning routine usually takes me about 30 minutes, so without further ado, let's begin. The first thing I like to do before I get into my deep stretch is to roll out my body so that I can get nice and loose. So a couple of the core tools that I have to do this is, of course, I have the classic foam roller. I have the trigger point roller, which is a little bit more intense. I use it for like the calves or forearms. I have a lacrosse ball, which I will use and stand against the wall and roll out different parts of my muscle. I have 2 lacrosse balls together. This one is great for other areas like the forearm, or if I want to do my spine, I'll roll over this one. And then I have kind of this forearm tool as well. You kind of stick your arm in it and can roll it out like this. This one works great for the forearms, but I also use it on the calves and the quads. So unless you have like a physical therapist or a doctor kind of just on call, these are great cheap tools that you can use to get your body nice and loose before we get into our stretch and stabilizing exercises. For the lacrosse ball, I typically would recommend a couple areas that get really, really tight playing golf or working in the office. So the first one I'll do is I'll take it and I'll put it in between and kind of work out this trap area that gets really tight and locked up, either from swinging the club or just kind of being hunched over. So I'll work this one just kind of a couple ways, standing in between the wall here, and this will get the trap nice and good. Then what I'll kind of do is kind of this lat or the muscles that's gonna run down through the arm that can get pretty sore. I'll do that one and just kind of, it's a little bit hard to see with the camera set up, but you kind of put the ball in between there and work that lat muscle. This one is probably the most important and is kind of the muscle that's secretly the most tight. So if you think about when we're golfing, we're always kind of hunched over with our shoulders and kind of always in this position. So especially if you're sitting in a car driving in the office, a lot of times we have this tendency to get these kind of collapsed shoulders, and you kind of see my head just naturally do it, kind of crane back. So what we're really trying to go for is get the chin kind of back and get more of this upright posture. But the muscle that secretly gets really, really tight is these front pec muscles here. And when this is tight, it's gonna pull everything forward. And then you kind of get stuck here. So if we can really get this open and up, it's not only gonna make it easier and less painful to just be standing and resting, but you are gonna be amazed at the amount of mobility that you're gonna have in your shoulders and get that extra like elbow leading in the downswing as opposed to kind of pulling and having to rush your hands when you're swinging. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this one and then I'm just gonna stand in between the wall here and kind of work it this way. All right. The last one I'll kind of do with the single lacrosse ball is I'll work on the butt or like kind of the upper glute. So this one you can either do it against the wall like we were just doing, or I'll almost kind of sit on it and just roll around the areas that get really tight. Next we'll get into rolling out our back and some of the other areas of our body. So I'm gonna give you guys a lot of options here of different ways you can try to loosen up the muscle fibers. You can choose to do all of them or just some of them, depending on the tools that you have at home or whichever ones work best for you guys. So I'll show you a couple permutations with this one, and then we'll also do some basic foam roller. So with this one, like I said, I like to put it on both sides of my vertebrae and kind of roll out my spine. This one is really, really nice and just kind of releases everything in your back. So if I want to get the upper neck muscles and the upper shoulders, I'll also kind of put my hands behind my head and just roll the 2 balls on the sides of my neck here. And sorry if I'm running out of breath when I'm doing these exercises. I'm gonna try to annotate everything while I'm doing it here for you. So this one, also very good for kind of the limb muscles. So I'll sometimes do this one with my calf muscles and just kind of roll over it. Similar to the 2 sides of the spine, it really gets those sides of the muscles going. And then what I'll also do is I'll take this here and I'll do like the sides of my arm, just kind of work up here. So just kind of roll out both sides here. If you'd rather use the classic foam roller here, you can just kind of put this on your back and do a couple of simple rollouts here. But what I also like to do is kind of start at the top and get my hands behind my head and then just let my head and arms relax. And I'll hold this for about 30 seconds. Then just go a couple vertebrae down. Take in some deep breaths, just relax, do another 30 seconds. And just work my way all the way down my spine. And slowly just let everything, deep breaths, and relax. Okay, that should be pretty good for releasing kind of the shoulders and the arms and the back. The next area we're gonna work on is the hip flexors and the front of our legs, kind of the quads. So especially for those of you guys that have an office job or are sitting for most of the day, this is probably one of the secret things that's causing you a lot of pain. If you have pain either in your knees or in your butt, or you have sciatica kind of running down your legs, and you really feel this when you're golfing, this is the core area that we want to try to release in our body. It's really, really tight, and that's why you're getting that knee and sciatica pain. So we can either use the double ball here or the single lacrosse ball, and this one is going to be pretty intense. But what I'll usually do is I'll take one of these, depending on how I'm feeling, and I'll sort of lie on it on my stomach and just slowly work around and try to release these muscles here. So I'll just take this guy in between the hip flexor, find a good tight spot, and then just kind of roll it out. Okay, now that we've used all the different tools to get all of our body nice and loosened up, let's go ahead and get into an active stretch. So I'll typically start out with some windmills here, just get everything nice and moving, and then maybe I'll bend over and do some alternating toe touches, just kind of get everything nice and loose. Just get it moving here. You can do some stand up, you can do some forward arm circles, you can do some backward arm circles. Then what I'll typically do is I'll just get into a straddle and kind of bend over and just kind of hold the straddle. So I'll do this, maybe I'll reach to each side, just try and reach underneath. And in each of these exercises, I will typically hold it for about 15 to 20 seconds, maybe 30 seconds, but you don't really need to do it that long here. You could typically be pretty active. So for the sake of the video, I'm gonna go through everything pretty quick. So then we'll just go ahead and get some squats going here, and then just kind of an alternating lunge here. So try not to lose your balance, but I'll typically just get an alternating lunge, really trying to open up these hips. And then sometimes I'll even turn side here, do a little bit of yoga, and then just kind of reach up and try to open up that chest and back muscles here. So you guys don't have to do everything in my routine. I'm just gonna go through and show you a bunch of different permutations and options, but most of the stretches are gonna be pretty active and work a lot of different muscle groups. So we got the hips nice and active, loosened up our spine with some of those windmills. Then we can try to do some toe touches. So I'm pretty flexible, but you guys just go as far as you can and try to hold it. Then I'll do some squats, stand it back up. A lot of this stuff you'll see, and Phil Mickelson really talks about it, but getting this hip mobility is really important for longevity and just kind of makes your golf swing that much more mobile and easier to get into some of those harder to reach positions here. So I'll go ahead and do the one that Phil likes, and we'll just get in this deep squat and then kind of push our legs apart here. Okay, then I'll just go ahead and take a seat. And first exercise I'll do once I sit down is I'll just kind of reach out in a straddle. So again, you guys just go to the best of your ability. You don't have to worry about what I'm doing on the screen here. But one technique that I like to use for stretching is go as far as you can. Take a nice, long, deep breath. And then as you let it out, try and slide a little bit farther than you were before. And then you can repeat this. And then slide down a little bit farther. And just keep trying to work it a little bit farther and farther. And you'll find that you'll gradually get more flexible this way. So I'll go ahead and reach as far as I can. And I can touch the floor here, so I'll just go ahead and slide that out. And then I'll do some reach down to the toes. And then some reach acrosses. Okay. Then we'll go ahead and I'll scooch it back a little bit so you guys can see here. And we'll bring the legs in for a butterfly. Again, just working on that hip flexibility here. So fly away somewhere, just do some flappies. And then you can either just keep it active, or if you guys want, you can just hold it. If you're flexible enough, you can take your elbows and push your legs down to the floor. And then take it one level further. You can try to get your chest to touch the ground there. So after the butterflies, then we'll go ahead and straighten out our legs. And we'll go ahead and reach and do a pike stretch. Then we'll flex our toes and try and pull the legs in. And again, I realize, full disclaimer here, so a lot of these exercises may be pretty intense to the level that I'm doing them on the screen here. So just choose the ones that you like and try to do them to the best of your ability here. Okay. Then the next stretch that I'm going to do is really important and a really good stretch if you guys have any sort of sciatica or lower back or tight butt conditions. So this stretch is called the piriformis stretch. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to turn sideways. Basically, I'm going to take my one leg and put it over my knee, and then I'm going to roll onto my back, and then just pull this other leg forward here. And you see it's going to kind of make a 4 with the legs. This one is really good for getting these back of the butt up into the leg muscles. I don't remember what, hamstrings, that's the one. So that is going to get a really good hamstring stretch. And I can take this elbow and kind of push this knee forward while I'm pulling this leg back. Just really get that stretch in the hips. Go ahead and do the other side. And I have some especially tight hamstrings on this side from the way that I swing the golf club. So this one works really good for me. This next stretch is another really good stretch for kind of the sciatica, the lower back butt muscles. So I'm going to take one of my legs and I'm just going to put it out in front of me. And again, to the best of your ability here, you don't have to be straight across. But then I'm just going to go ahead and I'm just going to lean into it. Okay, so that pretty much covers everything with the back of the legs there. Next, we're going to work on some stretches for the front here. So I'm going to get down on my knees, then I'm going to take one leg out into a front lunge, and then basically I'm going to try and tilt my hips forward here. So if I'm tilting it back, try to tilt my hips forward so it's pointing forward. And then I'm going to make sure I'm nice and upright and vertical, and I'm just going to slide forward here. So just take my whole body and slide it forward. And you're really going to feel the stretch in the front of the hips and maybe even in the back there. So I'll do this one for a 30-second hold. Really feel those front hip flexors getting loose. So if you want to take this one to the next level, you can reach back and grab your back leg and kind of pull it up, and you'll really feel it in that hip flexor. This one's even pretty tough for me. Then I'll take the front leg, straighten it out. Sorry, you can't really see it in the video there. And then just try and reach and touch my toes here in the lunge. This one you'll really feel in the hamstring of the other leg. And then for me, we just gotta make sure we still have our gymnastic skill. So I'll go ahead and occasionally do the full split, make sure we still got it. You know, we gotta make sure we still got it every once in a while. Now that we've got everything in the hips nice and loose, what we want to do is some exercises to stabilize and strengthen those muscles. Because most people really never work or strengthen their hip flexors. So what we're going to do, and I definitely recommend doing these exercises after you've stretched the hip flexors. So we're just going to sit in our straddle, and we're going to reach our hands out, and the farther out you go, the harder this exercise is going to be. So if your hip flexors are really tight, I would recommend putting your hands pretty close. So I'll go about middle of the road here, And then what we're gonna do is, without leaning back, we're going to take our legs and we're gonna lift our legs up. So this is firing those hip flexors to strengthen and lift the legs up. And this exercise is gonna be really hard, and you guys are probably gonna get some intense cramps if you have tight hip flexors and this is the first time you're doing this exercise. So take it slow and go pretty close if you need to, because this exercise is very hard. But basically go out to what's comfortable and then do 10 to 20 of lifting the leg up hip flexor raises. Woo! Okay. Then you can also do a different permutation of this. Put your legs together, same sort of deal, go out as far as is comfortable, and then just do some more hip flexor raises. This is the best way I've found to isolate the strengthening of the hip flexors. And like I said, this exercise is going to be difficult. So I'll do that one after I've done all the hip stretching that I need to do. Then I'll do kind of a mobility exercise to work on just moving the legs and joints through the different positions. So you can kind of sit here and then you can kind of just try and rotate your knees, and don't use your arms. If you gotta use them to stabilize, that's okay. But the ideal situation here is we wanna do everything with just the stabilizing of our legs. So put my hands up, and then you can just kind of rotate your legs through and just feel these moving independently. So if you're really, really tight, it's gonna get stuck and you're gonna have to move your whole body. So what we're working on is just trying to get these loose. And then if you want to take it to the next level, you can kind of go over here and then stand up and really push your hips forward. So, and then I'll do it on both sides, really work on that mobility. If you guys can do this exercise, you have really, really flexible and stable hip muscles. So this is kind of the end goal here, is to get to this position. Next couple exercises we're gonna do is work on these kind of side muscles here. So, sorry you can't see my feet, but basically what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take one leg and I'm gonna cross it over, and I'm gonna put my hand on my hip, and then I'm just gonna kind of lean to the side here. So I'm just doing this face on so you can see it, but I recommend getting something to hold, cross your leg over, and then just kind of lean to the side. So those other exercises and stretches we were doing is really isolating the front and the back. We also need to kind of work on loosening up all of this stuff and strengthen and stabilizing some of these muscles. So go ahead, get this going here, do another 10 or 20 seconds. You can do it a couple sides each way, but basically take it, cross it over, and then lean to the side. And you'll really feel it stretching out all this stuff here. Okay, after we've stretched out the sides now, the next area we want to work on to just try and finish the rest of the lower of the body is the calves and the toes. So apologize for the angle here. I'm gonna walk up a few of the stairs so that you guys can see it. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna do some calf stretches, just hanging our feet off the end of the stairs. And then we're gonna do some toe raisers, they're called, after we stretch the calves to kind of strengthen those muscles here. So I'll walk up here, get you guys a few stairs so you can see my feet. But basically, we wanna get a good upright posture with our upper body, and then we're just gonna kinda let our heel hang off and stretch out the calves. And then what I'm gonna do is get both of them together, and I'm gonna do toe raises. So I'll do 10 where my feet are just perfectly straight, and then I'll open the toes up and do 10 this way, and then I'll do kind of like a pigeon toe and do 10 this way. So just so you guys can see it, I'll do some of the straight on toe raisers, really strengthen those calves. Then I'll open up the toes and do a kind of open toe. And then I'll also do it closed. So these exercises are actually really important because all those little muscles that are in the sides of the ankle, all these ankle stabilization muscles, think about when you step on the side of a sidewalk and your ankle kind of rolls to the side. That is a lot of times where people will just casually get hurt if they're not working on these kind of exercises. So this is a great way to stretch all that out and stabilize all those muscles in the ankle to make sure we're not gonna tear an Achilles or we're not gonna do anything where we roll our ankle. So I could kind of like walk and trip and just shoot my angle to the side, and it'll typically be okay and not get injured because I spent a lot of time stabilizing all these muscles. So we've pretty much stretched everything that we need to stretch with the lower body. We've stabilized the ankles and calves. The last couple things we want to do is we want to stabilize the quads and the hamstrings and the muscles in the lower back. So of course, most basic one you can do, get in a good, nice, upright standing posture, and we'll just do some very basic squats. And then you can do this with a kettlebell or whatever permutation you like, but just making sure we can do that nice squat position. Then these next couple exercises are probably the most important exercises when it comes to strengthening and stabilizing this area. So besides having these really, really tight front hip flexors, kind of what goes along with that is because this is always closed and so tight, is everyone has really weak muscles in their butt and in their lower back. And this is what's really gonna cause the pain in the kneecap or below the knees, because you're putting so much extra strain and pressure on your knees with the way that you're kind of naturally tight and pulling on these muscles. So what we did is we stretched and loosened these up, and we did those hip flexor strengthening exercises. Now we need to strengthen our lower back and glutes to stabilize this whole unit. So a couple different permutation exercises we can do is they're going to be called glute bridges. So there's a couple different styles you can do. Is if you don't have a band, you can do it where you lie on your back and do a single-legged glute bridge. So what's important here is I lie on my back, I make sure my entire lower back is touching the ground. I don't want to have like a big arch here, and I don't want to be able to stick my hand through underneath my back. I want it pushed against the ground, and then my hip is forward. Then I'm just going to take one of my legs, and I'm going to do this single leg bridge here. And then make sure I'm having good posture with my hips and my back here, and then just do some of these glute bridges. So that one's pretty hard. You could also take it to the next level by getting the big yoga ball and putting one of your legs on the yoga ball and do the glute bridge that way. That's like the next level up, harder permutation. If you want a little bit easier, you can take a band and put it around your legs and do both legs together like a combined glute bridge. So I'll get into that same position, just get some good tension in the band, and then just kind of do that same sort of glute bridge. One other added bonus exercise we can do here is if we want to, if you don't have like a gym that you normally go to with one of these like leg press or leg opening machines to strengthen the like inner and outer muscles, what you can do is you can take this band and just kind of lie on the ground and then just kind of do these kind of like can openers or whatever you want to call them, and just do that on both sides. You can also do it where you like stick the leg out and then just raise the leg up. That you'll really feel in this side and hip flexor area as well. So that's everything that we really want to strengthen and stabilize as far as posture goes with our hips, lower body, calves, ankles. The next thing we want to do is we want to slowly move up the body. From the lower body, we're going to do some core, and then we're going to get to the upper body, and then we're going to have a nice, perfect posture by the end of this routine. So, a couple different permutations of core exercises we can do. So we can have just kind of the classic crunch here. That's a good one. I like to do like a V-up, like this guy, or a toe touch, whatever you want to call it. Then there is the, you can put your arms just kind of rest. And this one is a really good one to get these lower back muscles that are above the glute muscles we just did with the glute bridge. This is what I call like a butt up. So you're just gonna get your legs here, and then you're just gonna try and push your legs straight up towards the ceiling and come back down. This one is really gonna work those lower back muscles. So after you do some butt ups, you could also do some toe touches. And again, all these exercises have varying difficulty, so just do whichever one works best for you or you're most comfortable with. If we want to really take it to the max, we can also do some hollow rocks here, or we can do some flutter kicks, and then just put the arms above us here. So you do whatever permutation you like. or feels most comfortable, but that's really gonna blast the front side of the core. So now what most people do is they only work one side of the core, they don't work the obliques, and they don't work the back. So again, the issue we have with the hip flexors is we're not stable because one side of our body is stronger than the other. So for whatever you do on the front, I also recommend doing something on the back. So easiest one I can think of is just doing some arch-ups here. And you can do a couple different permutations. You can do out to the side, or you can do it here. Whatever permutation you like. But that one is also gonna kind of work on opening those shoulders as well, but that's strengthening these lower back, opposite side of the core muscles there. So, last thing I'll do to finish off just blasting a little bit of core in the morning is I'll work on some obliques. So, I'll go ahead one arm out here and do kind of a side lunge, hand on the hip, or you can do arm up, and then we're just gonna do some raises and lowers. Or you can just hold it, and if that's even too hard, you can just bend your knees and just go from the knee up and just kind of work on these oblique muscles. But everything we've done so far, kind of loosening all this up and then strengthening this, I guarantee you guys, after a couple weeks, your golf swing, if you're a golfer, is gonna feel real stable and being able to work your torso and kind of get that arm leading through. You guys are gonna have so much more flexibility and mobility in that golf swing. So that's ultimately what we're kind of going for, besides just the regular everyday posture stuff. One other good exercise you guys can do if you want to work on those obliques besides some of the side lunge stuff is you can take a medicine ball or whatever sort of weighted object that you want and just get into this sort of tuck position and just do some of these side touches here. Now on to my biggest personal weakness, which is the neck and the shoulders posture. So if you're like me and you really love playing video games, then you probably developed one of these guys, like we were talking about with the hunched forward shoulders, the crane neck, and between office, video games, and golf, I basically just kind of live in this position. So I'm really trying to work on getting the chest up, the shoulders kind of turned back, and then get that head in a good position here. So first thing we need to do before we try to do all these exercises, because I guarantee you if you're like me, this area is just locked up tight. So we need to get all this loosened up and kind of open, then we'll start to do some of the strengthening exercises to make sure our head and body can stabilize in this position. So first thing, remember when we were doing the rollouts, we were doing all the lacrosse ball stuff, we can kind of get those traps worked and loosened. So another good exercise or stretch you can do is get in a good, nice upright position, and then I want to try to stretch out these traps. What I'll do is I'll lift up one shoulder, and this is great for golfers because if you especially have a tendency to kind of do like the pre-cocked lean, or if you're already kind of like leaning, chances are you're probably not even, or one side's gonna be real tight. So I'll get in a nice relaxed position, then I'll shrug up one shoulder, I'll take my hand over here, and I'll pull it to the side, and then I'll let this relax. And you're gonna really feel this in these muscles here. So that's a good stretch there. Do it on the other side. Woo! I can just feel my neck cracking. And I guess just kind of while we're on the topic for you golfers out there. So one thing, we're always talking about balance when we're talking about posture. So I've been saying abs have got to be as strong as back. Glutes, hip flexors, everything's balanced here. If we think about how we work out as a golfer, we are very asymmetrical. So we are always only swinging one way. So we're really torquing one part of our body, this part of our body. If you're a righty like me, you're really torquing this stuff specifically. And I think a person, going back to Phil, because he's just such a legend, but if you notice, when he's doing his speed stuff where he's warming up, he's swinging the other way. And this is pretty true for pretty much every professional golfer, but they can swing the club the other way. And the reason they do this is not just to be cool, but because they're really trying to balance and make their body symmetrical with everything to avoid as much injury as possible. I guarantee you this is one of the key causes of injury in golfers is this asymmetrical body function. And then because things aren't symmetrical and don't work the same way on both sides, that's really where an injury is going to happen. So some things that I recommend is at the end of your golf workout, just take a club and do 20 swings the opposite way. Don't have to worry about form or speed or anything, but just at least try to do some sort of proactive activity to get your body symmetrical. Another area of your life where you can kind of see this is, again, going back to me, if you're working in an office, is you're asymmetrical sitting at the desk. So one hand is working the mouse and the other's typing on the keyboard. And odds are you're probably hunched on one arm sleeve or on one of the armrests. You're not totally symmetrical. This one's moving around, this one's resting. So between sitting in the office and then your spine's gonna get like this, and then you go out and golf and you're only hunched this way and just working your muscles like this the entire time, that's gonna be the key critical areas of all this stuff getting tight and locked up and causing injury. Sorry for the really long explanation there, but I think those are some key fundamental day-to-day body dynamics points that are really important to understand why we're doing these exercises and trying to make everything symmetrical on both sides. Next stretch or exercise we're gonna do, continuing to try and loosen up these neck and shoulders areas, is we're gonna go ahead and grab a towel and we're gonna do something that's called traction. So this is kind of the same problem that people have with their spine, but really with the neck, is we're always getting so crunched up and the vertebrae are all getting together and rubbing against each other that we need to do what's called traction, which is pull them apart and get them nice and loose. So the easiest way I found to do this is with a couple exercises for the neck. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna get this towel and I'm gonna get in a nice upright position, and then I'm just gonna take the two sides and just kind of pull my head up. And you're really gonna feel the stretch in the neck. So just kind of do this for about 10 or 20, maybe 30 seconds, get that nice traction. Then if you want to take it to the next level, you can kind of just turn your head to the side and kind of really try to get those isolated side muscles in the neck. Get them nice and loose. Next exercise we're gonna do to work on that neck traction or loosening up those areas is we're gonna do this same neck towel traction exercise, and we're gonna take it to the next level here, and we're gonna put our, get the traction, then we're gonna put our elbows and rest here, and then we're just gonna kind of sit down, and this area is really gonna stretch all this here. So if your shoulders are kind of stuck forward, this is gonna be really tight and locked up here. So we need to stretch out these muscles so that your shoulders can get back opened up. So I'm just gonna go ahead, get in this nice traction stretch. And it's probably gonna feel a little weird, but I'm gonna try and sit onto my heels, and I'm really gonna feel that stretch in my triceps. Then what I'll do is I'll just kind of let my head relax and just kind of push it forward towards the ground. Another permutation of that exercise that we can do, if you don't want to do the towel or the traction, you just want to focus on opening up those shoulders, as we can go against the wall, and I'll start with my hands pretty high and just kind of push my shoulders into the wall. So imagine this part is just going straight in here. And then I'll do it for a couple seconds, step a little bit further back, and then just push it against the wall. And I would hold it for like 30 seconds or so, or you can even do up to like 1 or 2 minutes. If you just do 2 minutes, you'll really feel this getting opened up. And then I'll go all the way till about 90 degrees, and then just push it to the floor. Next, we're gonna take it back down to the floor, and we're gonna do a little bit more traditional yoga stuff that you're probably familiar with. So we can get into this nice position here, and we can do what's called some of the like cat and cow stretch here, you know, just kind of working the back up and down, taking some deep breaths, alternating between hollow and arch. So that's a good one if you want to do that one. But the one that I like to do if we're still focused on isolating these neck and shoulders here is I'll get into that position, then I'll just let my head relax and fall down. Then what I'm gonna do is push my whole body forward, and then I'm gonna tilt my feet and try to get my toes to touch each other. And my foot immediately just cramped, it's so tight from this, but you're really gonna feel this and just kind of those back of the neck muscles here, and maybe even some of the stuff shooting down your body. So get back into it here, drop the head down, push it forward, and then tilt the feet towards each other. And this one is another one that I will just hold for 1 to 2 minutes. All right, one other stretch I'll just kind of throw in there for the golfers there. We'll do the Jimenez stretch here, where we get the golf club, we get in this nice squat position, and then we just push our shoulders towards the ground. So, you see this guy do this stretch, but it's really just a good permutation of a combination of the stuff we've been doing before. So he's getting in this deep squat, he's mobilizing these hip areas, and then with the club, he's pushing his shoulders into the ground. So he's really opening up that chest area and kind of mobilizing those hips. Everything that's really important in getting that really powerful, whippy golf swing. Okay, so if you don't like those intense style of stretches, we can also do it where we take it to the ground and just kind of roll around or relax a little bit that way. So I'm gonna go ahead and tilt this camera down a little bit more so you guys can see. But, so ones we can do that are a little bit more relaxed and on the ground, is we can just take our arm in front of it and just roll on top of it, and you'll feel the stretch across the front of the chest here. So just roll into this one, and then we can just do the same thing on the other arm there. And this is a nice and relaxed way to do and work out some of these stretches. So then we can kind of go here in this kind of 90-degree position, and then just kind of bring the arm towards the ground. So this is gonna work some of the other sides of that shoulder area. And then the last one I like to end with before I move on to some of the therapy exercises or shoulder stability exercises is just kind of get back into this prone position, and we're gonna raise one arm and kick the opposite leg back. So this is another really good one as more of an active exercise to kind of mobilize those areas. Okay, so we've got everything nice and loose and stretched here. Next, we want to go ahead and stabilize these shoulder muscles now. So I'm gonna go ahead and get my handy dandy foam roller, and then I'm gonna get some 3 or 5, basically, I want some really light weight here. We're not trying to do any sort of strengthening, so please do not use heavy weights. We just want something light to mobilize and stabilize these shoulders and neck area. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna lie vertically on this foam roller. Then I'm gonna start, and same thing we were doing with the glute bridge, is we want our lower back pushed against the foam roller. I don't wanna be able to shove my hand into here, and I want to get my neck, I don't wanna have a big gap with my neck here either. I wanna have it nice little chin tuck, and lower back is touching the foam roller. Get my whole spine vertically aligned in a nice position. Then I'm gonna take the 3-pound weights, and I'm gonna do 10 to 20 reps of a couple different permutations of exercises. So I'll start straight up, and then I'm gonna do alternating up and down, and then I'll do about 10 to 20 of those. Then I'll do some flies, and really just kind of feel this relaxing and opening up. So some flies there. Then the next one is I'm just gonna kind of punch the sky. Really just feel activating these muscles forward and back. Then after 10 to 20 of those, I'm just gonna do your standard bench press. But one thing that's important to note is if you have really tight shoulders, these elbows are gonna fly out higher up than your hands are. So I'm trying to either get perfectly 90 or have my elbows a little bit tucked in underneath when I'm doing this bench press to make sure that my shoulders are kind of up and pulled back. If your shoulders are really tucked forward, your elbows are gonna be flying out. So really kind of tuck that back in. Just kind of have that tucked in, and then we're doing that guy right there. And then after 10 to 20 of those, I'm gonna get here, and then we're just gonna do some of these 90-degree rotations forward and back. And you're really gonna feel this kind of mobilizing this area. Then after 10 to 20 of those, I'm just gonna put my arm to the side and do some angel wings. Really just trying to reach out far, feel the mobility there. We did the whole sequence on the foam roller. Next, I'm gonna take my same 3 to 5 pound weights. We're gonna head over to the wall. And this one is going to be a really good one if you guys struggle to kind of get that elbow tucked into the golf swing. You kind of find yourself pulling the hands down and the elbow just kind of flies out. This may be because you have active hands, but it could also just be because your shoulders are so tight forward that you're not capable of getting the mobility of getting your elbow leading first properly. So this one, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take these weights and I'm gonna get my lower back again pressed against the wall, head against the wall. Then I'm gonna put my hands out in front of me at kind of a 90-degree angle, and I'm gonna do like a rotational fly out. But what's important about this exercise is I'm not just gonna whip my elbow into the wall. What I want to do is get the back of my hand to touch the wall before my elbow does. So really working on stabilizing the shoulder, getting out and open without having it collapsed forward like this. So get nice and open chest, back against the wall, 90 degrees, and then kind of fly these out. And I work at this every day, and even I still struggle to get the hand to touch before the elbow against the wall. So this one is a pretty hard one, but after doing this for a week or so, you will immediately notice the increased range of flexibility in kind of this action with your arms and elbows. Third exercise I'll kind of do in this lightweight sequence is I'll get into the nice upright position and I'll just get my arms 90 degree in front of me. Then I'll do a kind of bench press in the air, rotate the arms up, and then do a press up. If the exercises are even too hard to do with some weights, then that's okay. We can still do some variations of these exercises without any weights at all and work up to the weights as we get more and more mobility going here. So if I want to do these exercises without any weights, I just want to do some like open fly style exercises. So some permutations that I'll do is first I'll get into a nice, that upright posture, and then get a good chin tuck going, because remember, we don't want to be jutted out and forward. We want to have a chin tuck. And then I'll put my arms up into this position, kind of squeeze my fingers halfway so you can kind of see like you're making a good knuckle there. And then kind of feel the chest kind of rotate open there, and then put your arms to the side, and then just kind of do some arm circles forward. So what I'm really feeling, pinching my shoulder blades together and holding the shoulder blades together, and then doing the arm circles. So I can at least try and stabilize my muscles in that position and then do some sort of movement with the muscles and shoulders stabilized back there. So I'll do this forward 10 or 20 times, and then I'll turn the thumbs completely backward so I'm nice and open here, pinch those shoulder blades, and then do it going back as well. So that's a really good one you can do to kind of work on stabilizing those shoulders back without any weight. You can also do some reach backs out to the side in 45 degrees. So straight back, 45 degrees back. And again, I have my thumbs completely pointed backward. And just really feel that getting open. So those are some good ones you can do if you don't quite have the stability or motion to use the weights yet. Okay, now on the opposite side of the coin, if the lightweight is really, really easy for you and you already feel that your shoulders are starting to get in that better position, we can upgrade it to about an 8 or 10 pound weight and do a little bit more challenging exercises. So next one I'm gonna do is working on some more fly and shoulder stability out. So I'm gonna get in that nice upright position again. And remember, that's probably the most important thing when working on posture, is always before you do the exercises, you wanna check yourself and make sure you're in that good posture. So we'll go ahead and check ourselves, make sure we're in that nice upright posture. Then this exercise is I'm gonna get into the 90 degrees, turn my thumbs out, and then just kind of fly out. And I don't wanna just be like whipping my arms back and just kind of, you know, doing one of these loosey-gooseys here. I want to keep my body in a nice core stable position and then make sure I'm just only working on turning these shoulders out. So an easy way to think about this in your head is your elbows stay attached or touched to your sides, and you're just letting these fly out. Okay, so that pretty much takes care of everything with those neck and shoulders. Last thing we're gonna do is we're gonna work on the wrists a little bit here. So I'm gonna go over and I'm gonna turn the camera down here so you guys can see a little bit better. But I'm gonna get to my bench and I'm just gonna take a nice light weight here and I'm gonna start and do 3 different permutations. So gonna have it here and I'm just gonna think, what I think about is just rolling up 1 knuckle at a time until I can get a fist, and then slowly unrolling 1 knuckle at a time. So slowly roll it up, slowly roll it down. And I'll do about 10 of those. And then I'll do the same thing, turn it over, because this is working the underside of the forearm. We want to turn it over and work the top of the forearm as well. And then I'll just kind of do some of these pull-ups here. And then you can also do, what I'm going to do a little bit of a variation, you can do a side one there. So I want to emphasize that these types of exercises, just like with the ankles and the stability with there, golf is a very intense sport on the wrists in these forearms. So either the tendonitis or so many times we're working on form changes that we're slapping or whacking the ground and it's really vibrating through the hands and the finger muscles. And if I'm working on good form, like if I think about Dustin Johnson getting to that nice bowed position, and I just have my arm locked in a bowed position, just hammering balls for 2 straight hours, I'm really not working or stabilizing the muscles in the other way. So doing this kind of maintenance every day is gonna make sure we're not gonna get any of those carpal tunnel arthritis related issues that come with golf as well. Okay, that pretty much takes us through the entire morning routine. It probably took a little bit longer in this video to explain everything, but in actual practice, once you guys get in the groove, it's about 20 to 25 minutes. So with the remaining 5 or 10 minutes, I usually finish it off with doing some more golf mobility exercises or whatever strength exercise I want to get in before I start the workday. I realize we went through a lot today, so if you guys do want me to create a written guide going through all the exercises and how to do everything, let me know in the comments section down below and I can be sure to get that made and put it on the website. Thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to subscribe and also let me know in the comments section down below if there's any ideas or topics that you'd like me to expand on. I can definitely be sure to make a video on that in the future. Thank you guys again for watching and I look forward to seeing you out on the course.